Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. The dollar. There is no comparison. Let's explore. That's right. What you're looking at here are two different versions of the dollar. The dollar was very different back in the day when it was made of silver, such as you can see in this old, worn-out Morgan dollar from 1885, made of 90% silver. It was highly coveted and sought after in those days for sure. These days, you find a dollar bill, you almost just want to scrap it. You know, there's not as much to it here. It said $1 and was backed by the silver content as well as by the good faith of the United States government at the time. There was no Federal Reserve. It was something that maintained a sense of value. A beautiful design in this particular coin. Nonetheless, today, well, it's changed. It is a note that is legal tender for all debts, public and private. But this particular note is from the Federal Reserve. It's a Federal Reserve note. That's right. And it has a lot of imagery. This particular note here is the longest standing design for a paper currency compared to our other notes that are out there today. And it has some interesting imagery on it that people speculate as to the meaning of. In fact, some of this information on this bill is some may find quite disturbing, such as, this pyramid, and the conspiracy theorists talk about the Illuminati and how this phrase, Novus Ordo Seclorum, which means New World Order in Latin. Yes, indeed. So there's some concerns everywhere from those types of things to what some of these other symbologies and things could mean on this particular note and what's going on here. But nonetheless, there's still something to be said for this note and what it represents. It is very powerful even today. Even though it is a dead instrument, it still does have power. And it is used by 60% of transactions by nations around the world. And will continue to be the top world's reserve currency. But back in this day, the dollar really wasn't that. It was because it existed. It was in and of itself, which essentially was the silver content contained therein, in an emerging nation here, which is starting to gain some prominence on the world stage by 1885, and even more so as we begun to enter into global trade and also wars, global wars, World War I and World War II. This year we celebrate the end of World War II, the 75th anniversary, and by then the dollar, in terms of in a coin form, was not really a thing. There was no silver dollars being created at the end of World War II. Nonetheless, this particular coin has just over 3/4 of an ounce of silver in it, and really there's no comparison between the dollar of today versus the dollar of yesteryear. And there's no comparison between this dollar that we have today compared to other currencies around the world. And why is that? Well, because we have the strongest military. We are essentially the sole superpower, although China is an emerging superpower for sure. And likely, if things go the way that some predict and some say that it is the case, then China will grow even more in prominence. And certainly their currency, the renminbi, is working to get away from the dollar. Many other nations around the world are moving in that direction. And so the dollar is fragile. The dollar being a dead instrument is something that it's concerning to some folks, for sure. And so we don't know what the future holds for this paper currency. If it were made of precious metals, it would be a different story if we had some sort of standard that was beyond human intervention, or was constrained beyond human intervention. There will always be human intervention for our monetary systems, and that is the way it has been for millennia for the monetary systems. But when you have something that constrains it because of the nature of that which, such as precious metals, it gives a little bit of a different perspective, and it gives us some insight that, and a sense of purpose, a sense of value that is beyond our control, really, in a sense. And that is a good thing and a bad thing, depending on what perspective you take on it. I think for most of us who utilize these dollars, when we see dollars lose their value year on year, that's essentially a pay cut for those of us who are working. We get less for our dollar this year than we did last year. In 1885, that was not nearly as much of the case. Why? Because of the metal that this is containing and the value placed on it. We had to be more fiscally responsible as a nation in those days. Not anymore. So there is a difference. There's no comparison between the dollar and with those different aspects of it. How long can we go with the dollar being what it is today? As the ultimate reserve currency, the best of the worst out there. How long can this last? We don't really know. But the longer we keep doing what we're doing now, the longer we keep printing these dollars, the longer we keep diluting the money supply, the more likelihood of a chance of the dollar collapsing or being in big trouble. And that kind of trouble, they know, is out there. It's on the horizon, which is why they are planning this great reset of this dollar. And make no mistake, whatever that reset is going to be, tied into global factions and revaluation of debt and more international control and an international ledger type of system, no matter what they do, it's going to be further removed from even this paper debt instrument. And we may get to a point where a note is going to be the new silver. Because basically this note, being in my hands, cannot be tracked by me other than the serial number. But how are they really going to know that I have this particular note unless somebody comes and watches this channel and sees that this note with this serial number is here and it gets passed on to somebody else in due course or whatever. But even as such, there's nothing on this note that ties it to any one individual. And more than likely, the new dollars that are coming will be tied through the ledger, through the historical transactions to individuals. A silver dollar is even less so. The only thing you had to worry about these silver dollars is the wear on the coin through the use, which is what we see with all coins in circulation. Sooner or later, a coin gets worn down enough, it essentially gets replaced with a new one, but it takes years and years for that to occur. And but nonetheless, the dollar, it is something that is far removed from what it was from yesteryear. And the new dollar will be far removed from the paper dollar that we're seeing today. We may get to a point where we're not using paper dollars anymore. And certainly we're not using silver dollars or even coins that are denominated with dollars on them. You can still get those, but you have to buy them as collector coins. They're not intended for circulation. So, what does that mean? That means we should cherish the money we have now to a certain degree, even though it's a depreciating asset for sure. And we should certainly cherish the dollars of yesteryear. This is why I encourage folks to stack silver. And it may not be a bad idea to stack silver in the form of these dollar coins or to get some older fractional dollars or quarter dollars, half dollars and the like. These coins you can get for a very low premium above spot price, and it is a way to preserve the value of your money. And that's really what it's about. It's about preserving wealth, accumulating it in the form of silver as a snapshot in time, because as this dollar depreciates, this appreciates, and you will appreciate having an appreciating asset as opposed to holding on to a depreciating asset, especially one that can be revalued and reset to something that could either track you and or continue to be revalued at a greater loss during a time of reset. So I hope you found this video informative. Post your thoughts in the comment section below. We'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.